hopefully we'll have that here for you soon. But I just wanted to recap some of the things that we've done since the new board was placed. This being our end of our fiscal year, the first full year of us together, and go over some financials for you. So in a recap for 2021, the first full budget year we were together. First thing we did was divestiture. You got that, Jerry?
Well, you sounded pretty loud. But
Can you hear me still?
yeah,
All right,
better,
so,
better.
Divestiture of public monies, directed by the state of North Carolina. That was a pain, but we got that accomplished. What we've done since then was we started to analyze and look at things to make our organization more efficient and modernize how we do business. We've cut expenditures. We previously outlined those to you guys. Over the last year, we've increased disbursements to the town of Anger. I will touch on disbursements that we did this fiscal year here briefly in a sec. We've increased wages since our arrival, or the new board took over. This past year, we were able to increase wages 8% across the board. So we have a more competitive environment for our employees to hopefully retain and recruit better talent. We have a fiscally sound operation. Like I said, we've cut expenditures tremendously to save us money. We're currently sitting at right at $1 million in our accounts, with about $649,000 in inventory. The only operating costs we have, of course, is salary and day-to-day operations. We owe nothing on the building. We have some partnerships going on that you're well aware of. We have the Anger Police Department GREAT program that Christina and our staff worked so diligently on this past year. That should be implemented. I still want to, hopefully, Chief Thompson will have us out there driving in that vehicle with the goggles to see how it affects people. I think that would be pretty neat. Anger Library, we're still in a partnership with them regardless of which direction the county and the town decides to go. I know that may require some modifications in our ordinances and some sort of partnership with the county, but I believe that can be easily accomplished. So those folks that are actually concerned with that, hopefully that'll set their mind at ease that we'll still be there as a partner to our library here in town of Anger. The town of Anger, of course, is our #1 partner. That every department that we can do business with, library, police department, and the general fund, we will continue to do so. The Sold Out organization, Sold Out Youth program, we're still in partnership with the Harnett County Schools. That we provide about $6,000 a year for that. Between all 4 boards, it's about $30,000 cost that saves our schools to help our children and adolescents and, of course, teenagers going through that course. We are currently working on some other initiatives later to be named. Some of those are going to be educational opportunities that we've been discussing with the ABC Commission. That'll be for our employees to help them with their leadership and management skills, and hopefully some other things to come. Store projects, we've upgraded a lot of things. Like I said before, we upgraded our security system really at no cost. It was minimum cost. I think the overall system was about a $30,000 investment, somewhere in there, but because of insurance and what took place, it cost us out of our budget around $3,000, which we had already planned for in our budget from last year. We've updated a lot of the policies, including personnel. And like I said, we are continuing to modernize our equipment and efficiency. As far as the financials go, this past budget year, because of taking off with COVID last year, we were down tremendously with inventory, and our organization worked very hard to get us back. We actually finished where we had projected, flat for the year, a little bit up actually. But the town of Anger received $100,000 from the ABC board this past year, this budget year that is. That was for the general fund. $21,543 for law enforcement, and $17,000 $702 for our alcohol education program. That does not include the $6,000 that we did with Sold Out. That's just for the town of Andrew. And then the library received $26,632. As far as the year starting off, this was our first full month going into our new budget year, July. We actually are up. Just a ballpark figure, we started really slow last year, like I said, because of inventory. We were only at 258 this time last year, 258,000. This year we are at 350,000. So we're off to a great start, and we are looking forward to continuing this partnership and helping the town of Andrew.
Good.
Any questions?
Yes, has the interrelationship with the state ABC board warehouse cleared up any?
It's gotten much better. We're always going to have challenges. We're working on some things. Hank Bowers, the North Carolina ABC Commission chair. He and I used to work together, so the partnership is going to get more solid, and we're going to hopefully bridge some of the voids that we have when it comes to some of the allocated items for the state of North Carolina. The issue with us being a sole propriety store, we're the only store in our own entire system. We're competing against boards that are multi-stores in counties such as Mecklenburg, Charlotte-Mecklenburg, and when you are going against 30-some stores as one store, it's hard to get those rare allocated items. But we're working on some things to hopefully make it a little more fair for all.
Any other questions from the board? Junior, anything from you?
Good job, guys.
Along that note, I think we ought to give Chairman Hawley and his board a hand for the good job they're doing.
It's not me, it's these guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The consent agenda, the minutes for July the 5th regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. All right, I'm doing that so I can hear you, Commissioner Price. Okay, public hearings. We've got several public hearings. The first one is the police department ordinance violations for enforcement. We had a public hearing the last meeting, and this will be a continuation of that. Who's going to present on that?
I can present on that.
All right, Dan and Lee.
So we've updated some of the ordinances. There was a recent.
Is your mic on?
There was a recent law passed that required municipalities to update their ordinances, and if you're going to make a violation of an ordinance a misdemeanor and have a fine associated with that, you need to state that specifically in the ordinance. Previously, you could have just a blanket statement saying any violation of a town ordinance is considered a misdemeanor, class 3 misdemeanor. Now you have to have a specific statement in the ordinance itself saying it is a misdemeanor. And so we've updated our ordinances to address that issue.
The class 3 misdemeanor is the lowest
Right, correct.
lowest misdemeanor.
Yes,
Okay.
and that is by statute what a violation of a local ordinance is, or can be.
Okay, and this works in coordination with other state laws. So, for instance, felonies and things like that would be outside of our ordinance.
Correct. Those would all be by statute. Any violation of a local ordinance adopted by the town of Andrew would be by North Carolina statute, at most a class 3 misdemeanor.
Okay. The draft that we saw had notes and marginal entries and some notations within paragraphs. Should the board be aware of, for instance, those extra notational entries, because they would not be part of the ordinance, right?
Correct. Well, I tried to do them in track changes so you could see what the changes were to the ordinance.
Okay, but I think we need to make it clear that where
Yeah, the
there's
ordinance.
a note in parentheses, I don't know. Why don't the rest of y'all go forward? I'll see if I can tell you what I'm talking
Okay.
about. What number?
That's on number 1,
Section?
yeah, chapter 1, section 1 through 6.
Let me pull that up so I can look with you.
Section 1,
Through 6.
3, 1,
What?
136?
1 through 6.
1 through 6, okay.
Off to the right.
So, I mean,
I'm not seeing the notations that you're referring
yeah,
to.
let's see. I'm working with a printed copy here. It's not quite the same.
Most of the notations are like formatting.
Oh, right. The formatting notations are just to show that the formatting has been changed.
And
Those were-
formatting, so the formatting is in the margin and is not part of the ordinance that we're going to approve tonight.
That's just part of track changes. It tells you if you've changed the
Right.
the
I just
format.
wanted to make it look
But
uniform.
I noticed one note somewhere in here. I guess we can come back and straighten that out if necessary. Any questions from the board?
Nope, we've looked it over. Looks good.
I say we pass it.
I mean, we need to be fair to the public and, you know, mean what we say. So, well, I don't see it right now. Okay. I guess, again, if we run into problems, Lee, we can come back and then make amendments.
Correct.
So why don't, you know, if we give this a shot for 5 or 6 months and then see how it works and see if we need to change anything.
We'll tweak if we need to tweak.
Tweak, okay.
There you go.
I personally would recommend that you start off with warnings and give people a chance to get used to the changes. As I understand it, you haven't been enforcing the code for a long time.
In over 10 years.
And I don't know that we can really afford to be in that position any longer, so. All right.
And that's
Is-
generally an officer discretion issue when, you know.
Excuse me?
It's generally an officer discretion issue.
Right. Okay, so we need to have a public hearing on this. Are there any comments from the audience about that? Any questions you want to ask the chief or Dan? I guess you haven't had a chance to read it. Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
So once we approve this, it'll go in effect tomorrow or when?
As soon as you adopt it, it will come into effect, because we've already had, if you recall, we opened the public hearing,
Right.
so we've already had technically the public hearing. This is a continuation of the public hearing.
Exactly.
And there again, we've got to order citation books. We don't have citation books for the ordinance.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I have read this ordinance line for line and spoken with the chief about it, and I don't see any issues on my behalf. The only thing that I would say is some of these violations in this ordinance would probably, I think I might have heard someone say it's up to the police discretion, but I think some of these violations probably wouldn't warrant a warning. So, but no issues on the ordinances that has been changed.
Okay. Yeah, I managed to get through it myself, so. Any further discussion? I'm going to close the continuation of the public hearing. Anything further from the board? Or any questions to the police? You appear to be ready. Is there a motion to approve or deny the text amendments of the police department's ordinance violations for enforcement as presented?
I make the motion that we approve it.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's 3-0. All right, congratulations, Chief. You're now
Thank you.
in position. Keep us posted on how things are going, and let's look at it again in about 6 months. All right, they're moving on to a conditional rezoning request. Daniel and Melinda Beavers. Sean, if you will tell us about this first, and then we'll hear from the applicants.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Your second item under public hearings on your agenda tonight is for a conditional rezoning request submitted to the town by Mr. Daniel and Mrs. Melinda Beavers. The property in question is 612 North Broad Street East. Each board member should have a copy of the staff report in front of you. On page 1, you'll see a vicinity map with a red arrow pointing to the property. For reference, this is directly across Broad Street from the Andrew Post Office and adjacent to the First Federal Bank. Property in question is currently zoned R10, and the request before you tonight for your consideration is our conditional general commercial zoning district. The property is roughly 2/3 of an acre. Currently contains a single-family dwelling, which has been the property's historical use. On page 2 of your staff report, you'll see a zoning compatibility map, which we always show you for rezonings. You'll see a screenshot here on the screen representing the zoning adjacent to the property in question. You can see this lighter tan color to the east of Broad Street represents our R10 zoning district, and this darker red or pinkish color is our general commercial district. The table on the right side of your screen is a comparison between the current zoning and the requested zoning district before you tonight. As you can see, the minimum lot size would be reduced from 10,000 to 6,000 square feet if the rezoning is approved. You'll notice there is only one P shown in the box on the right column on the screen here.
Which means permitted.
That is a permitted use. The reason I highlighted it for you is to point out that the only permitted use under this proposed general commercial zoning is for a medical office use, meaning no other commercial use would be allowed on the property if approved as proposed. There's also a zoning conditions draft list before you, which we'll get into here in just a minute. This here is an aerial photograph that's about a year and a half old to show you the surrounding properties. Like I mentioned, 0.64 acre property in question with a single family home currently on it. Surrounding land uses include some more medium density residential, as well as the bank and post office directly across Broad Street from the property. There is Town of Andrew water and sewer available currently serving the property. And it is on the corner of East Roy Street and North Broad Street, so there is dual access of public right-of-way to the property. As we always do, page 3 of your staff report includes a land use classification compatibility chart. You'll notice this darker yellow color represents our medium density residential district, which is labeled on the property in question. That dark red across the street there is the Andrew Post Office, which is our commercial classification on the zoning, or the land use map. So we do a chart here comparing the proposed zoning to the land use called for on our land use plan. You'll see that medium density residential does not align with the proposed general commercial zoning. However, as I mentioned a minute ago, this is a conditional rezoning. This is not a typical traditional rezoning where all of the permitted uses are allowed in the proposed district. This is a conditional zoning where the applicant has declared only one use would be allowed if approved. On the last page of your staff report is a staff evaluation. I'm not going to read through it line by line, but if you look towards the bottom of that page, you'll see that the staff recommendation for this proposed rezoning is for approval with the proposed draft condition sheet. You'll also notice that the planning board's recommendation at their July 12th meeting was for approval of the conditional rezoning with that draft conditions list. The reason I keep bringing up this draft conditions list is because it's very important. As you know, during conditional rezonings, the applicant and the board must agree on a list of conditions with conditional rezonings that will be placed on the property if the zoning is approved, and this will carry with the property in perpetuity regardless of transfer or sale of title. There are 5 conditions on that condition sheet before you. I'm going to read through them quickly to make sure the board is on the same page as the applicant. Number 1 says the parcel in question shall only be used for a medical office use. Upon rezoning approval, the building located on site shall not be occupied as a residential dwelling unless rezoned back to a residential zoning district. Number 2, there shall be a 10-foot Type C landscape buffer installed along the North Broad Street and East Roy Street, and the existing vegetation may be counted towards this buffer. Number 3, there shall be a 15-foot Type A landscape buffer installed along the northern and eastern property lines. That's adjacent to the existing houses around it, which shall include a 6-foot opaque fence. Number 4, there shall be at least 6 parking spaces installed on the property. If the building is enlarged, additional parking shall be installed at a rate of 1 space per 300 square feet of total building area. That's in accordance with our ordinance. And all parking shall be designed and installed per ordinance section 8.2. And number 5, a condition that was added as a recommendation by the planning board, says the existing access and driveway from Roy Street shall not be used for public access, meaning the 2 driveway points on Broad Street will be the only way the property could be accessed by the public. The other sheet that you have in front of you is a proposed site plan submitted to the town by the applicant, drawn by their engineer. As you can see, the property in question will remain largely unchanged, with the exception of additional landscaping, that 6-foot opaque fence along the existing residential, and a few parking spaces added per the ordinance's requirement for a medical office use.
Can you show that on the screen? Do you have it on?
The second PDF.
There you go. Can you enlarge that, please? And move her over. There you go. Can y'all see that out there? Say again.
So
Oh.
the box here titled medical office with a square footage, this is the outline of the existing dwelling on the property. You'll see the U-shaped driveway currently on site with the addition of 3 parking spaces on this side, 3 on this side, and 1 handicap space with ADA accessibility to the front door proposed. The circles down here represent the landscape buffer both on Roy Street and Broad Street. And there's also the 15-foot Type A buffer along the northern and eastern property lines.
I think the question was, where is this located again? Across from so the post office would be to the left.
Right here, left side of the screen here, the 2 crosswalks leading to the sidewalk adjacent to the post office are right here and right here.
Okay.
Any questions for staff before we hear from the applicants?
Why did we go from a R10 to a CZ6? Why couldn't it stay a 10?
So there's only one zoning district in Andrew that allows for medical office. That's our general commercial district.
Okay.
And in a meeting with the applicant, as part of our preliminary discussions before their submittal, I cautioned them to pursue the conditional rezoning rather than a standard rezoning. Reason being, there are many permitted uses in our general commercial district that would not be suitable for a residential area,
Gotcha. Okay.
whereas this one specific use may be suitable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? LaRue
Hey, Sean.
Jr.?
Yeah.
I seen the screen a while ago, and I see Mr. Billy Yergin sitting out in the audience. And when I lived behind this residence at 602 North Dunn Street, on the corner there, me and Billy had an agreement. When I bought the house in G and Lee, there was a parcel in the back that pretty much was a handshake deal between her and Mr. Yergin find out 6 months down the road that the homeowner on 6 North Dunn Street now claims part of that property.
You want to carry the mic over to Billy, please?
What's taken care of?
This is Billy Jurgen.
Yes, the fence is right on the property line, about maybe half inch off or something like that.
That could be handled by title insurance, I assume. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So, any more questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Come forward and identify yourself and your address, please.
Open public hearing.
Yeah. We're open to public hearing, and you're the first witness. So,
My name is John Baker, reside at 678 North Broad Street. My concerns are what it's going to do to my property values to make commercial in there. And it kind of looks like to me that once you start going into a residential area and making one spot commercial, this just opens the door down the road for it to become commercial going on down, I'm concerned about that. And as far as having the paper I read several weeks ago indicated they were going to have from 7 to 15 patients, I believe, a day with 6 parking places. I don't think so. I've never seen a doctor's office that only had 6 parking places and 6 patients. That doesn't make sense. I
Okay.
just don't think it should be approved.
perhaps when the applicant comes up, they can address that for you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your concern.
Yeah, I am concerned, yes.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Come forward, please. Again, identify yourselves and
My name is Michael Nyman. This is my wife, Christina, and I.
your address is
We live
next
at
door.
619 North Dunn Street, which is right over the fence from the property in question. We bought the property from a person a year ago. We came here from 40 years from after being in Gallup, New Mexico for 40 years, where I retired from healthcare. So we really love the community that we live in, and it's nice and quiet for the most part. But I have the same concerns that were just voiced. We're setting a precedent by rezoning this one property, and also what's it going to do to our property values in the future. I fully support the addition of additional medical practices in the community. I think we need that, especially pediatricians. I have 10 grandchildren, and they're all going to need pediatric care down the line. So I support that, but I'm just concerned about property values and setting a precedent.
And
All right.
the other thing is, when you talk about a buffer or the fence along the property line, is that going to hook up directly with the fence that we already have up there? How is that going to look? That's my concern. And our tree is going to be taken down because it's shaded, beautiful, gorgeous, tall trees. How are those trees within the property going to affect the look of the front?
Okay, good questions. Perhaps the applicants can address those when they come up.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes, Brian Hawley.
Brian Hawley, 49 Cary Lane Drive here in Anger. My question would pertain to wastes. Being commercial, what are the requirements going to be on this being designated commercial as far as waste services? Would they be required a dumpster with the enclosure, or would they have to meet a certain, amount of waste being going out that they would have to have that, or would they have cans? And then the second part of that would be hazardous waste materials. How would that be disposed of? Thank you.
Okay. So again, the applicant may need to address that. Sean, do you have any response to that?
I just want to point out that commercial properties are allowed 3 trash and 3 recycle receptacles before they are required to get a dumpster and then screen that dumpster.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the audience? Comments, yes. All right. There, okay. Comment, yes. There you go.
My name is Bob Huseness. I live at 574 North Broad Street East, which is the property just south on the other side of Roy Street. And I spoke with my wife, Courtney, for a long time when we found out that this could be happening. And my position, at least, is that we are not opposed to this because of the conditions. We live directly across from the post office, which might as well be a 24-hour industrial park. I mean, there's noise and alarms and racket all the time. Our largest concerns, which I think are being addressed, is for the public access from Broad Street instead of Roy Street, which is decidedly within the neighborhood. And I think that with the size of her practice being small and the operating hours of a medical building, I don't think that it would disrupt our day-to-day life, at least, very much. I'm not opposed to it. I think she's got a great idea, and we'll let her speak to that, but not
Okay.
opposed is my stance. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Why don't we hear from the applicant before we ask for comments from the board or questions? Yes. They can have questions. Yes. I noticed that.
So my name is Melinda Beavers. It's nice to meet you, and I understand I need to speak to the community as well, so I apologize that my back will be to you for quite a bit of this. But I do want a chance to introduce myself and talk about some of our plans for the property and for the business that would be housed there if this is approved. So as I said, my name is Melinda Beavers. I'm a pediatrician. I'm originally from Georgia, but we live here in this part of North Carolina because this is where my husband grew up. He's here with me tonight, as well as our 3 children who have been miraculously quiet so far. And we are here because he grew up in the Apex area when Apex was the farm country, and we love having family close by, and we love the part of the community that he grew up in are still attending the church that he grew up in now that we've moved back to this area. So history is very important to us. And I enjoy rural medicine. I actually went to a medical university that specialized in training rural providers, and for a while thought that perhaps some of my training was being put to an atypical use by working in a more suburban environment. And when I realized that an opportunity to be a pediatrician for a community like Andrew came up, it seemed that it brought back around some of the training that I received in my early, as they call it, undergraduate years of medical school. I want to first emphasize what I think this business could possibly bring to the town of Andrew, and then I want to circle back and address how this specific property could help us to do that. In regards to a medical practice, while many of us feel that it's absolutely a right, and it certainly is a passion of almost every pediatrician you'll ever meet, to meet all the needs that they see in a family when they come up, owning a medical practice is still a business, and seeking medical care is still seeking services from a business. And right now, the majority of our pediatric care in the town of Andrew is leaving. It's going to Fuquay, it's going to Holly Springs, it's going to sometimes areas of Johnston County, or even as far as Cary and Raleigh. So bringing a pediatric office to this area that really can reach the clientele here. I actually have a lot of patients from my previous office who live in the Andrew area or southern Fuquay, Varina area. So I would bring an established patient base in addition to providing medical care for a lot of people here in this area who would be looking for something closer to home. Not only would that keep the business of medical practice in the area, but it's also going to keep the practices, the business of pharmacy And if you aren't driving to Holly Springs to get your kids medical care, you're not going to go to the pharmacy in Holly Springs. If you get your medical care in Andrew, you're going to go to the pharmacies in Andrew. You're also going to go to the grocery stores in Andrew to get the things that your kids need. So it certainly brings more than just the medical care as a business aspect into the area. The reason that we are looking at this specific property, the reason that I was so excited when we found this property is because in pediatrics, it's incredibly important to create a home for the families that you take care of. A good pediatrician isn't just taking care of checking boxes for a kid's health. They're taking care of a family. They're taking care of a child from birth to adulthood and guiding parents through an experience that they often have not been through before. So it's a very community-based practice to be a part of pediatrics. Not that other practices don't get involved in their communities, but we think we have kind of a special role in that. And so it's really important to me that an office be a place of comfort for kids and their families as they sit and build a relationship with their pediatrician. It is important to me to help the community understand that from my perspective, I want very little to change about the building and the property. When it comes to putting up fences and how those look, it's very important to me that it agrees with what our neighbors want in addition to what the town of Andrew wants, because what the town of Andrew is aiming for is to maintain the neighborhood feel and to provide privacy to neighbors, but also to protect the kids that might be coming in and out of cars as they go to the office and in the area. So we certainly wouldn't just throw things up to check a box for the town of Andrew. We would absolutely make sure that anything we did is going to contribute to the history and the charm of the property that it is. We would absolutely not take down any of the beautiful oaks. There's one pine tree in the middle of the front yard that is not original to the house or to the property, and so that pine tree would come down. There's another that's awfully close to one of the big oak trees that we won't plan to take down because it might damage the roots of the older oak tree. As far as parking, it's very important to us that we keep it all in the front yard. I think, as Bob mentioned, Mr. Usness, we want to keep all of the traffic on the street that has heavy traffic. So employees may eventually use the back to park, but we want to keep all of our traffic to the front. And to the question of how many patients would come, so patients of 7 to 15 over the day, because it takes about 15 to 30 minutes to see one pediatric patient, and I'm the only practitioner. So we're not going to be farming lots and lots of people through. To begin with, it'll be myself and one nurse, and then we'll eventually have another nurse come on when the town of Andrew has grown enough that we have a steady population of people coming through. We want to keep the practice running. So at the most, I anticipate having 4 families in the building at one time, and that would be a very unusual circumstance. So that means that the amount of traffic and even cars coming through is going to be to a minimum. To make sure that we have safe parking surfaces and still protect the trees, we've put a lot of thought into the type of surface that we need to use to allow for better drainage and make sure the tree roots stay very healthy. So it'll be a bit more expensive, but we'll be using something along the lines of pavers and pea gravel and other things that are safer and healthier for the trees themselves, that the parking, the surface that we're going to be parking over, because those trees are drinking from the entire yard. So we have to make sure that we're feeding them. Grass takes a lot of effort to grow in the area. So rather than trying to grow grass in the shade, our goal is to create something that looks like, might be a little bit new age, but almost a more environment, drought-friendly kind of landscape that has flowers and has some other decorative things, but isn't trying to grow grass in that area, so that when there are not cars parked in the area, it doesn't look like an empty parking lot. We only intend to have weekday appointments in general, although we would allow weekend appointments for infants and newborn care, because that's really crucial to helping a family. So I may be there with 1 or 2 families on a weekend day, but it would not be farming 15 to 20 families through on a weekend, or like the practice where I came from, where we would farm 70 people through on a weekend. That's not the type of practice that I'm going to run. So to me, part of this property is really representative of the type of practice that I want to build, which is a very community-based practice that really puts a lot of emphasis on the relationship between the families and the staff. And then we can take that to the bigger picture. It's really important to me that we're a part of the larger community as well. So being able to create an environment that supports families in the town of Andrew. We may do fun things like be a part of our festival, like the Crepe Myrtle Festival, and other things that the town has going on to help get kids out of their homes and help families come out and to meet and be out of their houses and away from our screens and our books, although books these days are a wonderful joy to get around. But at the same time, I want to do things for families. I want to do things for parents because parenting is a very difficult journey right now. We have so much information available on the internet, and it's almost harmful to parents because we turn there instead of to our community. And so we are taking in information that's not helpful. And so building a community of parents that support each other and therefore are supporting our kids, it's a wonderful network that already exists in many ways between our police officers and other parts of our community that are trying to reach out and support youth programs. But if we really connect parents to each other and connect them to these programs, then I think that will go a long way to build a community that Andrew already is. And I'd like to close out by just saying, it's absolutely the board's decision. I wish that I could speak to the idea of property values. I don't know, and it certainly is not my intention to damage anyone's property value. So it certainly would be, the board's decision from that standpoint. As I said, I would hope that that communication stays open and that every change we make externally to the property is something that continues to speak to its history and speak to its beauty and not deter from any of that. Oh, I think one thing I forgot to answer about waste. So we make surprisingly little waste, although the diapers are pretty terrible. So we do have to have biohazard disposal, and we have to have specific sharps disposal. And so there are actually companies that handle that. So they're not the big, nasty, big trucks that drive around and pick everything up. And so that would be coordinated. A practice our size would not actually need daily pickup of very large amounts, and so we would have a schedule that existed based on what we needed in our size, and then otherwise we would use the trash cans and we would take them in and out according to the city schedules.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant from the board?
Mr. Beavers, this is Junior Price. What kind of plans do y'all have for ventilation and filtration systems to control and prevent the spread of any infections there at that property?
Absolutely. This is actually a hot topic in medicine right now. What's the best choice for keeping the room safe? So there's been a lot of science, and we figured out it wasn't nearly as hard as we thought it was all of the last 30 decades that I've been in training and going through this education process. So
30 decades?
30 years. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thanks. Sometimes I feel like it's been 30 decades. So, and it's, I guess 30 years is still an exaggeration. He's going to call me on that. I'm 20. So, right now, my intention is to use mini splits. So if you look up the circulation of a mini split unit, allows each person in the room to control the temperature, which is really important for babies versus kids, crowds versus single families. But it also allows for circulation and ventilation of each individual room. So it'll make the power bill a little bit higher for me, but it allows for a more specific control. And it doesn't involve the use of really, really loud exhaust fans, which make us yell personal health information loud enough for everyone outside of the house to hear. Or business, as I've worked in other buildings with the same situation. And it's certainly much more effective than having a smaller HIPAA filter on the ground where kids keep touching the buttons.
Right.
Because work with that too.
Any other questions from the board?
No, you've done an excellent job answering a lot of the questions that we've had, so I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm ready to close the public hearing, unless... Oh, okay, okay. I couldn't see you for the, for Junior, okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. My name is Don Curry with Curry Engineering, 205 South Fuquay Avenue in Fuquay, Varina. I appreciate Mr. Johnson's report and don't really have anything to add to it. It was very, very complete and thorough. I just wanted to reiterate what Mrs. Beavers is saying. We do feel like we've made specific...
That would be Dr. Beavers, right?
Dr. Beavers, absolutely.
Yes.
We have pursued and specific accommodations for this property. I think as Mr. Johnson said, with this conditional use, we feel that it is reasonable with the conditions that are being offered. It is really fulfilling a need as Andrew continues to grow, and we've, like I said, paid particular attention to the particulars of this property. And I really feel like it could be a good use and a good asset for for the town. Also, as Dr. Beaver said, we are parking it at the prescribed rate based on the size of the building. So the parking spaces are appropriate based on the size of the facility. So that's per town code. So, but thank you for your consideration. I'm glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Does the board have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There's nothing else. I'm going to close the public hearing. Board members, do you have any discussion or questions for the staff?
What about signage? Are we going to have any signage up there?
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to
Or is
ask Dr. Beavers about that?
Oh. What type of sign you going to have it? Are you going to have any type of sign?
Yes, so we would like to have a sign in front of the building. I think signage is actually really important to me because that speaks, it speaks a lot as a family or a town or a community embraces a business. So when I was here for the planning board, I made a comment that I want something that resembles this. I want something made of wood or stone that's very classy, is not lit up from the inside necessarily, would perhaps have a spotlight just to shine on it during reasonable hours, and at night the lights are off because the business is closed and everyone should go to sleep. So to me it's really important to emphasize I also don't want anything very tall, I don't want anything very flashy, I want something classy, I think is the best way I know to describe it, and I know that's a very subjective term, but I want something that is not too large, but also large enough to emphasize that it is the business, that people can find it and they don't wind up turning into my neighbor's driveways hoping to find the business.
Okay.
I do have one other question. If by chance, or if it's not approved, not approved, if by chance you decide later on down the road that Andrew's not your fit and you want to go ahead and sell your property, will you bring it back to residential or do you propose to keep it as commercial?
Absolutely. My goal is to let it be the home of Bloom Pediatric Partners, and if it's not, then I would like it to be another home. I don't want it to be thought of as an office or something that's carried on. It's really important to me, the conditional rezoning, that this is something that is done because I want a home for the practice that I've envisioned and not because I'm trying to change this block, this city block, or anything about Andrew. I want Andrew to be the home of Bloom Pediatrics because of who Andrew is, not because I'm trying to bring anything or change anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from the commissioners?
Nope, I'm good.
Ms. Beavers, I could barely hear you just a second ago. Have you, about the signs, are you gonna have any, clearly marked signs to navigate the clinic there?
Yes, sir. I would have, is this on? I would have clear ingress and egress as well. I think that's really important based on the traffic flow. We've looked at the navigation, so there's an intersection just at the north entrance, and so that seems like a safer place for ingress, and then allow egress further out so that people aren't trying to jump out of the driveway and into that intersection. And we've also, I've just had some preliminary looks at making sure that the driveway and path themselves are safe for people turning in and looking. Does that answer your question? And then as signage of the business is to have something of a classy appearance, reasonable size, and not lit from within. Not to just.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Beavers. Okay. We have before us then the conditional rezoning requests by Dr. Melinda and Daniel Beavers for 612 North Broad Street. You have heard, and those in attendance have heard the 5 conditions to be incorporated into the zoning regulation. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the conditional rezoning request submitted by Daniel and Melinda Beavers.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the conditional rezoning, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Okay. Thank you. Welcome to Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And thank you to those in attendance. We did hear your concerns, and I hope we address them. So, all right. We have several voluntary annexation petitions. I assume, Dan, we can't do these together?
No, we probably need to do this.
Excuse me?
We probably need to do this individually.
All right. Okay, these are, when the petition is received, the clerk needs to investigate the petition to determine that it's sufficient, that it's in order, right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So each of these three will be, well, actually there are four. Okay. Will be for the clerk to do her thing and determine if they are sufficient. So the first one is a petition, submitted by Daniel and Janet Gardner and Kenneth and Deborah Gardner. The resolution is R018-2022, and the property is 47.8 acres located on Old Buies Creek Road. Is there a motion to direct the clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the petition?
I make a motion.
Motion, Mayor.
Okay, the motion is made. Any discussion?
Nope.
This is fairly cut and dried, so all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Similarly, a voluntary annexation petition submitted by Rebecca Parton. It's R19-2022 to direct the clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the petition for 32.23 acres located on Matthew Mill Pond Road in Angier. Is there a motion?
I make the motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this?
Nope.
If not, all in favor of submitting this voluntary annexation petition, please vote aye.
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 It's unanimous. All right. The third one is submitted by Taylor Morrison of the Carolinas, Inc. Resolution 020-2022 to direct the clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the petition submitted by Taylor Morrison of Carolinas, Inc. for approximately 35.61 acres located on Junie Road and Kennebec Road in Angier. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
All right. Any discussion? If not, if you would have the clerk do this, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right, it's unanimous there. The fourth one, thank goodness, folks, we have to do these things a formal way. You know, we're not in a country where we, go behind scenes and do stuff. So, fourth one, Doris Collins, consideration of the resolution 021-2022 to direct the clerk to investigate the sufficiency of the petition submitted by Doris Collins for .942 acres located on East Wimberley Street in Angier. Is there a motion?
I make the motion, Mayor.
All right. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor of directing the clerk to investigate this, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. All right. Now, the next thing we have, thank you all for that. It seems rather mundane, but these are important things to the community. 500,000 gallon elevated water storage tank. Who's going to speak to this?
Our town engineer, Bill, will speak to us.
Okay. Bill, if you come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening.
Yeah, just a little quick background. This goes back about 8 years. We had a preliminary engineering report done in 2014 that looked at a 250,000 gallon elevated water storage tank on Kennebec Church Road, which, as we all know, is built now. We looked at the replacement of our core water system, 8.1 miles, which you'll be seeing me within the next couple of months coming forward. That RFQ is getting ready to be advertised. And we looked at a new elevated tank. In the PER, we were looking at either 250 or 500. And,
So what was holding us back from doing all that?
money.
There you go. So where do we get the money from?
The ARP money.
Okay, so the legislature allocated funds to us enough to do this.
Yes, sir.
We don't know enough yet.
Well, they sent us a bunch of stuff down here in money. Okay.
So we advertised for an RFQ for the design once we received approval of the funding, $2,456,250. That was the state earmarked funds in FY 2022 budget. The submittal deadline was June 16th. We received only one submittal. Engineers are busy now. MBD Consultants is the one that submitted. I talked to several other engineers that came and that called about submitting, declined to submit. That probably had something to do with it because, quite honestly, MBD Consultants is the one that did the PER for us back in 2014, and they're the ones that designed the 250,000 elevated storage tank on Kennebec Church Road. So that made them very competitive and tends to scare away some consultants. I will tell you that the PER that they did in 2014 and the elevated storage tank project on Kennebec Church Road were both very successful projects, and they're
below budget.
Yes, sir. It's a good team to work. They're a good team to work with. So based on that selection, we began the contract negotiations. That actually came in. If you look at the budget for design that we submitted with the request of funding, it was, I think, $30,000 or $40,000 higher than what this comes in at. So very happy with the fee. It's $135,000 total. $90,000 is for the engineering design, $10,000 is for environmental, and $35,000 for the construction administration when we get to that phase. So what we're here tonight to request is your consideration, and staff is recommending that we approve the $135,000 contract to MBD Consultants to begin the design work of our new 500,000 gallon elevated water storage tank.
You want to talk about the proposals for the sites, or?
That's going to be that's part of their scope, MBD's scope. We really have two locations, possibly three. It's either going to be where the Dora Street tank is now and replace it, or it'll be where the standpipe is now and replace it, or it may be on an alternative piece of property right there near the standpipe on Juni Road. So it's going to be somewhere in that area. And once we have our consultant on board, he's going to assist us with doing some evaluations on impacts based on the site.
Okay. All right. Does the board have any questions?
Are we sure this tank's gonna be big enough for us as we're growing?
Why don't you ask him?
Yes, sir. What we look at, and the reason, we were initially looking at 250,000 gallon tanks, the one that was built and this new one, with the potential to take it from 250 to 500,000. What we have to look at is required storage. That's really what our guideline is in terms of elevated. It's not really water. It's not the water that we provide. We rely on Harnett County for that. When we hit a wall in terms of being able to provide water, it's going to be based on what Harnett County HRW can provide to us. The elevated part of our distribution system is based on state standards in terms of amount of storage we have to have, just in case there's a fire or a major main break, to still meet their standards. And with this 500,000 on top of our 250, we'll have 750,000 of storage, and I think our required is going to be 400,000. So, and that's really the matter of the volume of the storage. It's not really supply.
but the height also has to do with the pressure, right?
Yes, sir. I think that's one of the really good aspects of this project is the overflow elevation for this new tank downtown that's replacing Dora is going to be the same overflow elevation as Kennebec Church. So we will no longer, you won't hear us coming up here and talking about our high pressure system and our low pressure system. Everybody's going to be on the high pressure system in town. So it will have a very positive impact on water pressures, and particularly in the downtown area.
Which is why we're replacing the pipes and all in downtown.
And that's all part of the whole package, is replacing
Right.
those old pipes then as well. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further questions? Is there a motion? Yeah, oh, okay, sorry.
All we have to go by on is the paperwork and the literature y'all send us. The MVD, are there the ones that in this first photo here that y'all sent us with the town of Andrew, when they erected the water tank to the left side and did the excavation there on the right, or do you know off the top of your head, are they the ones that done that work?
Are we talking about the Kennebec Church Road elevated tank?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, sir. MBD Consultants, as I said, they did the preliminary engineering report for that project. They did the engineering design for that project, and they did construction administration for that project.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Well, yeah, I didn't finish.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
I went over this line for line, and just to be honest, Mr. Drexler, that the picture that I see on the right there is very disturbing. There's nothing about that picture that's safe. I look at their professional liability, they're showing what, 2 million, general liability is 1 million. If someone gets hurt or killed on this, I mean, is that all they're gonna pay and the town picks up the other, or how's that gonna work?
No, they have to meet they'll provide a certificate of insurance, a COI, that will have to meet the town's requirements in terms of the minimums.
Have we done any research on their EMR or rating or anything?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I guess you can tell that the commissioner's involved in public safety projects, so to his credit. All right. Any other questions? Are you ready for a vote, which would be to approve or to authorize the town manager to execute the contract with MBD Consulting Engineers for an amount of $135,000?
I go and make the motion that we go ahead and give the town manager permission to execute the MBD Consulting Engineer fee proposal in the amount of $135,000.
Okay. Is there any discussion, further discussion? If not, all in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
Okay, the vote is 2-1, and it passes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, budget amendment number 1. We all sorts of, in this time of dynamic pandemic change, we have to shift things around a bit. So Hans, you're on.
Wow, the first budget amendment. I'm surprised. Anyways, because it's August and normally we have something in July, so I'll just keep this fairly short.
Okay.
Because the crux of it is simple. Back in February, we had established the asset forfeiture fund, within which the goal was to hold all of the drug seizure money. It took time to go back to 2005 and figure out what was what, and then essentially allocating it out of the certain parts of it, out of the general fund balance, because that's what absorbed some of it. So that is, in essence, that's what this is about. It's basically just transferring the money from general fund balance, because it is restricted, and it's putting it into the asset forfeiture fund.
Which is also restricted.
Super.
Okay. Any questions for Hans?
Nope.
If not, is there a motion to approve budget amendment number 1?
I make the motion to approve budget amendment number 1.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion?
Nope, we're good.
All right, all in favor of the motion to approve budget amendment number 1, please say aye.
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 That's unanimous, okay? Thank you, Hans.
Thank you.
Keep us straight. All right. We have before us a lease agreement with the town of Anger. The library building, and so who's going to present this?
I'll present this, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and I have a question for you right off the bat. What part of this building is included in that lease?
The entire building is included. The space that we're in is considered to be shared space. So the shared space will be a percentage that the county will send to us based on how we pay our utilities. We do not have that percentage yet, but basically in this room itself, it would be, I would say, an 80-20 percentage, 80% Harnett County, 20% the town.
Will that change the usage of this room in any?
No, sir. It'll
way?
continue to be a activities room during the day for the library, and it'll be board meeting night for us for every Tuesday in the month.
Okay. Dan, is that what you read in the lease? Okay. Other questions from the board?
Nope, I think we're doing the right thing.
So basically, utilities will be paid by the town of Anger, and then we'll invoice the county based on the percentages of what we decide on. But schedules of operation will be the same, and insurance, Harnett County will cover the contents within the building, and the town will continue to cover the insurance
building
on the
itself.
building itself.
Okay. And of course, the county will pay salaries and things like that.
Yes, sir. So when the consolidation plan was supposed to be effective July 1, but because of there was some more items to take care of on their end, it now is effective August the 1st, which was yesterday. So there's certain expenses that the town continued to pay in July, and that the county will reimburse the town for.
Okay. All right, any questions or comments from the board?
And how long is this lease going on for?
It's a 3-year lease, so the first year we paid 2/3, second year 1/3, third year 0.
And then within 3 years, if things don't work out, we get the building back?
Yes, sir.
Go back.
But there is a provision for extending it in 3-year increments.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
All right, the motion has been made to approve the Harnett County Library Building lease agreement. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. Okay. Now, back in the day, I signed a state of emergency for the town of Anger. Bet you didn't know such a thing existed. We did it very early on in the pandemic, and we looked at it each time things changed, but the governor seemed to anticipate all that and changed his orders so that we didn't feel like we needed to update our orders. But it's there. The governor's going to terminate the state of emergency for the state of North Carolina, on August the 15th, and there's no point in us continuing a state of emergency. So the motion here would be to terminate the state of emergency declared by the town of Anger on effective immediately, or if you want, effective August 15th, whichever you desire.
I make the motion that we terminate it immediately.
Okay. Any discussion?
Nope.
Will that affect any funding we're getting for emergency matters?
No, sir.
Okay. All in favor of terminating the state of emergency at long last, please say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Yay. Let's hope the virus obeys us and goes away. All right. Town manager's report.
Yes, sir. Just a couple of items, and I know you've seen some of these before, but we did talk about the salary survey. I know that discussion began early this fiscal year. Typically, we do salary surveys every 4 years. We conducted the last one in 2019. I have contacted TJCOG, Council of Government. They're going to get back to me with a price. It will not be a full-blown salary survey because the full-blown was done in 2019. This would just be a revision. So I'm just waiting to see what that price is
Supplemental,
and see
yeah.
if the board would
Okay.
consider moving that up from fiscal year 24 to 23. So more to come on that. Second is the North Carolina General Assembly funding. We just approved an application for an elevated tank from funding from the General Assembly ARP money at $2.4 million. And in this fiscal year, the governor did sign the budget, and Anger will receive another $2.8 million to go towards additional water and sewer projects. That's in part to say thank you to Senator Bergen, Representative Strickland, and Representative Penny for
Amen.
their hard work in getting this for Anger. My proposal is basically to apply these funds to the $8.7 million Harnett County sewer capacity upgrade that's taking place.
You want to
under
explain a little more about that?
Yes, so we have requested Harnett County to expand their plant. Bill, correct me when I say the wrong numbers. But basically in doubling their sewer plant so that the localities that participate in their sewer plant can purchase additional capacity. Because Anger is growing, anywhere between, 7 and 10% every year, we are running out of capacity for sewage. So this will allow us to purchase additional sewer capacity into their plant, and of course, we have to pay our share. We've been very fortunate and received funding from the federal and state government to cover those expenses, and this 2.8 will now cover it completely without having to go for a USDA loan.
It's awesome.
Good.
Thank you so much to our representatives.
Hear,
Yes,
hear.
thank you for them. And the last was we did for the Harnett County Library Consolidation Plan, because it did not take effect July 1. It took effect August 1, which is yesterday. They revised that, and Mayor, you've signed it. So.
All right.
And that's it.
Okay, any questions for the manager?
Mr. Vincent, did I overhear you say you have contracted with a executive director with the TJCOG?
No, sir, I have
He
not,
has not.
contracted. I just contacted him, so there's more information to come back to the board.
Okay, did you discuss this with your staff to see if this could be done internally like we talked about?
Yeah, I want to kind of see, well, first I want to see what their price is, because now I understand that it's not a full-blown salary survey. It's just a supplemental revision. So I just wanted to see what that price is, and then I'll discuss that with HR.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Departmental reports.
Mayor, I will say that we have 3 department heads that are out, so
I
Katie,
kinda noticed the
Jimmy,
spaces
and Derek
over there, yeah.
had previous schedules, so.
Okay, so who's up first? Chief Lee.
I'm going to be brief.
Good.
Police activities for the month of July consisted of 2,748 calls for service / officers initiated activities. Officers investigated 28 offenses. During these investigations, 12 individuals were arrested on a total of 15 charges. 5 arrests were made for outstanding warrants. 2,324 subdivisions / security checks were logged for the month of July. 23 traffic accidents. Just to highlight some of the activities for the month, we hosted the Harnett County Chiefs Luncheon on the 19th. During this luncheon we held right here in the boardroom, it consisted of the sheriff, all the chiefs in Harnett County, and the topic of discussion was active shooters. So we've already, this month, we participated in 2 active shooter training, which a couple of our board members attended, and the town manager attended.
Don't you tell them the story.
I'm not gonna tell them. But we had, it was a very, very good training. Y'all want to comment?
I think you did an awesome job. I think you guys are well on the way of doing what you need to do to protect the citizens there in Andrew, and I commend you for that. You and your guys are doing an excellent job.
Appreciate it.
And I can also say that it was very surreal. I watched it from within the building, and I didn't anticipate some certain noises to be very loud, and I went down to that prayer position very quickly. So, bless these guys for the hard work, and just watching it is unbelievable. So,
Well, definitely after observing it, I commend you all. And as a parent myself, I feel very protective. I think y'all did an excellent job, and thank you so much for all your stuff.
I'm not saying it because it's my team, but I'm very proud of our team.
They were excellent.
We've got a lot of quality.
Yes.
In our police department. Another note is we were awarded 2 light towers from Camp Lejeune. We entered into a agreement with the military. It's called the LES program, where we can get stuff for free as long as it's for the police department. So we actually, Sergeant Pollard filled out all the paperwork for that, and we were awarded 2 light towers. And
Like you see out on the road to light up a site.
yeah, it will be used for special events, our checkpoints for the police department, for search and rescue. So
Awesome.
it can come in handy. It saved us a lot of money because they're about $15,000 a piece.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's all I've got. Y'all have any questions?
It was brought to our attention that Thursday night, that the National Night Out for the police department has been canceled, correct?
Correct.
Because we've had a lot of people inquire about it, and we just found out recently that it was
And
canceled.
if it was any way we could reschedule that, I would sure love to do it. The individual that was helping advertise for that event is no longer with us. And she's worked hard in the last couple of years putting these events on. And due to her leaving, we were not able to advertise for the event or prepare for the event. So, but no, I would love to postpone it and do it at a different date if we can.
Probably when it's cooler.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions of the chief?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Johnson, I'd just like to say, start off with by thanking the town manager and trusting you to be the chief of police here in Andrew. The job that you've done since you've been there has been outstanding. I don't think that your officers a lot of times get the credit that they deserve. The public doesn't get to hear or see them a lot of times, the stuff that we do about jumping in ponds, saving people's lives, running through the woods, all the training that y'all do takes away from their family, all the stuff that you've done for the schools and, the training that y'all go through. You've just done an outstanding job, and we can't be no more proud of the Andrew Police Department today than I've ever known it to be. Thank you. Chief.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Why don't we give them a hand? All right. All right, who's next? Sean.
As you know, your planning and inspection department is busy. As a general overview, we do have over 3,000 residential lots on the books already approved in various stages of the approval and review process. Your inspections department is averaging between 15 and 25 new home permits every month and has kept that pace for over 2 years now. As we know, as we build out those 3,000 lots, that's only going to keep going up. Our code enforcement officer is hard at work going around town. We provide a spreadsheet in your packet every month for updates on that. I believe we have torn down an additional 2 condemned dwellings in the past 30 days or so, entirely through ownership compliance, which is great news. That means no taxpayer dollars spent to get that done. So I want to give props to Officer Hodges on that. As you know, Heather Kiefer, our community development coordinator, has left us, gone on to greener pastures. Of course, we will miss her. We wish her the best. I am in the process of reviewing candidates to fill that seat. Hope to get that done in the next few weeks, and I'll introduce our new candidate to the board at that time. A couple updates coming up. Number one, we will have a planning board meeting next Tuesday. A couple new rezonings to consider. There will be no board of adjustment for the month of August, 4th Tuesday this month. And do want to let everyone know, and this is on our Facebook and we'll be going on the new screens around town, we do have a free concert event this Saturday at Depot Square. The morning market portion of that event was canceled, but the afternoon concert from 6 to 9 p.m. is a go. That's a free beach music festival. There will be a dance floor, food trucks, beer vendor, etc. So we invite everyone out to join us on that. Does the board have any questions for me about planning related stuff?
Appreciate you stepping in for Heather in her absence.
I'll do my best.
Any other questions? Comments?
Yep.
Thank you, Sean, for everything
All right,
you do.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Anybody left over there? Hans, I guess. Okay.
Didn't we hear from him already?
Yeah, we've already. He said you've had one chance. So
One chance for what?
to be up here, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, no, that's fair. Well, that's why I've got more to say than what we have time. So I'll wait till our next meeting as far as that goes. What is important is, again, our audit. And yeah, we're gonna keep talking about this until October. But it is most certainly gaining some proper traction. And they're throwing things at us often, but it's great. It's great. That's a beautiful thing about North Carolina. Not all, states require an annual audit, but we do. And like we've spoken about before, an audit begins basically in June and it ends in October. And they comb through everything. So, needless to say, thank God, it's going well. And so, we just they're thorough. And we've got a reciprocity with them like hardly many do. So, they're strong, they're diligent, and it has been a challenge. And that's all for now, though. Just an audit update for this one.
Everything looking good so far?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Still getting invoices from last fiscal year. That can be kind of, that's okay. That's okay. So, but yeah, so it's kind of changing numbers. It's kind of changing a little bit here and there. But we keep them very, very, very well posted, and it's going to go very well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, I will add that we will not have a workshop for this month. We don't have any items to discuss.
Okay.
So no more meetings this month.
I accidentally hit the mute button a while ago. I just want to share the load a little bit with Hans and Sean. They are both two true leaders in this in their departments. We couldn't be no more prouder of both of them. They do amazing work. Thank you to both of them.
Well,
Excellent.
we all agree with that, yes. Okay, anything from the board? Y'all got anything else to say?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Woo, okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it's aye. It's unanimous. Okay. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. We got some good, very good things accomplished.